Our first presenter in this stream is Dr. Greg Leach. He oversees policy development in the vegetation and landscape management and resource sector portfolios at AgForce here in Queensland. He spent much of his early career in Longreach with the property management planning program back in the 1990s. And it's a pleasure to have him back in Longreach, at least virtually, to present to us today. Welcome, Greg.
Thank you. Thanks for the opportunity to present this today. And I'd just like to mention at the start that I'm presenting this on behalf of a very engaged group of AgForce members, landowners that have, I guess, contributed over more than 100 meetings over the last 3 and a bit years to thinking about the challenges before agriculture, and I guess this has been supported by a number of inputs, most notably from organisations like the Royal Society of Queensland, other NRM regions, and a range of different organisations. But my talk today would, I guess, like to bring forward a lot of the thinking that's been going on about landscape management from AgForce, and I guess our moves toward a natural capital future. And I'd like to talk about what we're seeing as being natural capital and the method that we've, I guess, progressed over the last 3 and a bit years. Lots of thinking through and now some testing, I guess, to enable landowners to tell their story effectively and present to others what is the condition of their natural capital. So the talk has 3 aims: to introduce natural capital and this ag care methodology, to talk a bit about the ag care testing that's been going on and where we're going with this. Okay, so natural capital, can be defined different ways, but I guess the definition that we've supported is we co-wrote the natural capital policy of the National Farmers Federation, can be defined as the world's stock of natural assets, including geology, soil, air, water, and all living things. And I guess this diagram, which is naturally pilfered from the web by a good friend, but it I think tells quite closely the reason that we're looking with at natural capital and the interdependencies that humanity has on working with that natural capital, and our economic activity and all that we do on the land can have both positive and negative impacts in drawing from the ecosystem services and goods from natural capital. And that's largely what we're teasing out, is how this interrelationship can be made more positive than it currently is. So AgForce 4 years ago at the board level said, no, we want to endorse that the organisation and members take a steps into the future in terms of advancing a natural capital approach to working with landscapes. Why? I guess that the board was pretty keen that we're looking at measuring and valuing natural capital, particularly because of its fundamental and essential nature for recognising and building the resilience of landscapes, not just properties, but landscapes, bioregions. So we have known for a long time that natural capital assets provide people with free goods and services. We're very familiar with the term ecosystem services, and that ecosystem services are now becoming more tradable commodities, and carbon being the most or the first dancer, if you want, off the plate. So carbon's been doing different things in Australia. That the AgForce members have been concerned about, and particularly with the low uptake of carbon projects and the involvement of agriculture in that space. And so I guess looking at the existing marketplace and where things are at, the committee has stood right back from this and tried to conceptualise what is it that agriculture, broadacre agriculture, wants to talk about and needs to be involved with when we're talking about natural capital, when we're talking about valuing ecosystem services and valuing natural assets. What is it that we want to be talking about? And conversations with the AgForce board, it boils down to 4 major areas. So it's all about improving farm productivity and financial position of the property. But it's looking at doing this in 4 different ways. Firstly, by improving production from traditional commodities by building those natural capital assets. So building productivity by improving the health of the landscape. The second area is about being involved in the markets for natural capital and ecosystem services. And yeah, there's a range of exciting things that are happening in this space. The third area is to improve the risk profile of land managers, landowners, in their dealings with rural financiers. And the fourth area was to attempt to build or improve the social license that landholders need to work within the landscape, and in so doing, neutralise some of the regulatory frameworks that have been imposed on agriculture by building natural capital rather than being a victim of a government's attempts to do so. So what you have before you is the 10 metrics that make up AgCare. So AgCare is a measurement system, and what we've undertaken so far is a baseline assessment process, and we're now in the throes of building on this as we go. So to talk through these 10 metrics, so the first metric is a property plan. So that's a cornerstone document that is a communication document for speaking with and communicating with other stakeholders, authorities, banks, compliance agencies, so on and so forth. So it is, I guess, the communication piece about the natural capital condition of the property. The second metric, remnant vegetation. So what is the health of the remnant vegetation that is regulated by the Queensland Government? The third metric is non-remnant vegetation in grazing areas. So for those areas that have been improved, what is the condition of those landscapes? The fourth area being soil condition / soil health. So at a base understanding, what is the current condition of the soil health on the property? Fifth area, biodiversity, a big wide open door, but at a base level, what is an effective representation of the biodiversity on the property? 6 is water cycle. So both runoff and water use in the property system. And yeah, there's a number of measures included in that. The 7th area, another big wide open area, is stock, the mouths on the property. So I guess in our first pass, it's about looking at the footprint of that herd or of the mouths on the property. The 8th metric is the farming, as in the cultivation, so the high value agriculture on the property, and the cycling of carbon and other aspects in that system. The 9th metric is about energy in, energy out. So what is the footprint of the property in terms of energy use, consumption? And the 10th metric is about the human quotient, as in what are the propensities of the landowner and land managers for building and supporting natural capital. So it takes a lot to unpack all those 10 metrics, but what we're simply doing is measuring each of those and taking some scores on doing that. So, and the way that we're, I guess, providing, or the output of an assessment, and the baseline assessment that we've been testing is a score out of 30, and it's the assessment process is incorporating a questionnaire that the landholder fills in, some data that's provided by the landholder in terms of stock, agricultural farming practices, and energy use on property. And those two areas are combined with a GIS assessment of publicly available information to assess the vegetation on the property. So those things are combined into a score, and I'd just like to talk about the testing now of this AgCare baseline assessment. So the Land Restoration Fund in Queensland Government took interest in what we're doing, and I guess provided some funding to do a first round of testing that finished at the end of July, where we're looking to work with 25 properties across Queensland's bioregions and to do this baseline assessment with AgForce members. And we actually couldn't turn them away. So we ended up doing 37 properties before we drew a line in the sand and said, okay, that's enough. But I guess the Queensland Government was keen to fund it so they could establish a bit of a pathway for, if the Land Restoration Fund is supporting carbon projects, that maybe this AgCare could be a pathway to engaging landholders in those projects. So all the properties that were assessed were carbon neutral, carbon plus, so they're all sequestering, no net emitters, and goes already the committee was starting to do sums on with the figures that we're getting in terms of what is the beef herd in Queensland and the carbon position of that. So once you get some of these figures, you really start to extrapolate in your mind. Okay, where is agriculture really at? And so it's now really quite exciting. So the next steps, we do have additional funding from Queensland Government to through DAF to look more coherently at the drought and farm business resilience programs within DAF and how that works within AgCare. We've been doing a lot of work with a Land Management Alliance, which is a combination of QFF, AgForce ourselves, some regional NRM bodies, the Australian Land Management Group, and others. So it's a group that's been coming together to talk about, okay, if we're looking at natural capital, what do we do? How does industry work with that? We've had some major linkages with the projects that David Littleproud is sponsoring of biodiversity certification. This week with ANU, and also through the National Farmers Federation. And we're certainly about building partnerships. And in the next rounds of testing, we're enrolling Accounting for Nature, Climate Works. We've been doing a lot of work with Rabobank and Suncorp and Commonwealth and NAB. I guess we're keen to link back with the BMP programs that have been paused for some time in the grazing area. We've got some key linkages with the Queensland Herbarium, Landcare. There's many others in terms of partnerships going forward. I guess the focus is on the program is about monetising the services from the environment on the property, and also developing stronger links with rural finance and developing the marketplace. Yeah, so we're also working with testing innovative approaches to working with the market, and yeah, it's about build, leverage, and build. And that's the end of my presentation. Thank you.